The doc did something with somebody on Twitch. All right, so if you didn't hear about it, Dr. Disrespect ended up becoming the topic of conversation because, well, he do be disrespecting things. In this particular situation, he was allegedly having inappropriate conversations or conversations that would lean towards inappropriate with a minor. His words, not mine. After this happened, the internet exploded. You see, a little bit before this guy called Cody had released information of why Dr. Disrespect was banned. Now, Cody himself is a bit of an asshole who is kind of gatekeeping this conversation behind you buying tickets to his show, which is hilarious and comedic and so sad. But aside from that, yeah, this ended up kicking the ball down the hill to the point where Dr. Disrespect got online and then eventually finally gave this statement. Now, he did delete and re-add and delete and re-add the part about the minor, but basically, yeah, sounds like there was a minor involved. Now, a lot of this happened over an old Twitch product called Whispers, which is basically a DM system between the creator and whoever's DMing them, and you could just do that. Anyway, that's a product that don't exist anymore, and with probably good reason. Don't know if it's because of this, but yeah, now it doesn't exist. Anyway, the doc admitted to quite a bit, but then also left a lot out. Now, we don't necessarily know what was said in these DMs. However, this has not stopped people from speculating on these DMs. There's also been an email leak that was released that is completely fictitious, and you shouldn't accept as any reasonable level as a piece of fact. It's not. I'm not even going to show it on screen. It's just fake. Now, in this quick statement that Dr. Disrespect made on Twitter.com, it was loaded with language that I think allows us to kind of really piece together what kind of conversation was said. Now, again, we don't know what the conversation was, but I think most normal people would take a conversation in a certain way. So I'm going to read these out for you, and then I'm going to hope that you're a normal person and not a crazy, weird Dr. Dick Rider bootlicker, and hope that you agree with me in this assumption that I am making based on what I am reading, right? Okay, quote, were there Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017? The answer is yes. Were there real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Nothing illegal happened. No pictures were shared. No crimes were committed. I never met the individual. I went through a lengthy arbitration regarding a civil dispute with Twitch, and that case was resolved by a settlement. Let me be clear, it was not a criminal case against me, and no criminal charges have ever been brought against me. Now, from a moral standpoint, I absolutely take responsibility. I should have never entertained these conversations to begin with. That's on me. That's on me as an adult, a husband, and a father. It should have never happened. I get it. I'm not perfect. I'll fucking own my shit. This was stupid. Now, if I'm, just random Tom, Dick, and Harry reading the newspaper, right? And I read the words, I had messages with the minor, in quotes, right? Followed by, these were mutual conversations that lead in the direction of being inappropriate. Followed by, I take responsibility. I should have never entertained these conversations. I am probably going to be sitting there and thinking, damn, sounds like he was having conversations that lean to the sexually inappropriate with a minor, right? Because a lot of people would put two and two together on the basis of Dr. Disrespect being a celebrity and go, man, it sounds like he might be a pedophile. I'm not saying he is, by the way. I'm just saying that's what it reads like to a lot of people. Now, a lot of others have been arguing against that assessment, and it also required like a description and understanding of what like arbitration and all that is. And I'm gonna have a stream clip at the end of this that will explain the differences between arbitration, civil proceeding, and criminal proceeding. But the gist of it is that if you're a normal person, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that the messages are him being inappropriate with a minor, right? So there's that. Now, for some reason, this entire Dr. Disrespect thing has turned into like political discourse, which is like the most alarming and sad thing in the world, because it just goes to show you how ill-equipped the average American is at having really, really complicated political discussion, which is really funny because the first presidential debate is also tonight, in case you didn't know. But the Dr. Disrespect thing became a complete political discourse because Doc's friends in the past had gotten involved in LGBTQ issues on the side against the LGBTQ community. Something like don't teach gender-affirming care type things in middle school with like Nick Merckx and Tim the Tatman. I might be being reductive about their opinions, but that's what the cultural context of it is, right? It might not be what their opinion is, but it's what society has kind of distilled their opinions on it as, right? As them being like either transphobic or homophobic or any number one of the phobics. So in this case, Doc ended becoming like a bit of a martyr for the cause against the wokeification of schools. And as such, the usual suspects have crawled their way out of their Twitter holes to defend the Doc preemptively. It was really funny. There's a Quartering tweet, which, by the way, used to be on this apology, but he has since deleted the tweet about the firm handshakes, where Quartering was defending him for not doing this, which Quartering ended up walking it back and said, "I never did that. I never avowed that." Here's the firm handshakes tweet. It happened. There's been a few other guys as well. I talked about Grums in one of these commentary videos coming up one of these weeks. He did too. A bunch of people. Now, on the opposite end of this is absolutely insane people using this as the guy that they're crucifying against those who hate the wokeification of schools. So, of course, you got Tipster jumping on the bandwagon despite not being a drama Andy anymore. Casey Tron has made many bad takes. So I'm not even going to address most of the bad takes. Let's talk about minors being on the internet for a second, okay? Listen, I grew up at a time and day and age where I had complete, unfettered, unrestricted access to the internet. I am an adult now, and personally, I would argue that minors should be a little bit more regulated online. Whether that comes through cultural changes that we all decide to take as parents, or through governmental changes made by legislation in Congress, I mean, that remains to be seen. But unrestricted access to the internet is not an appropriate answer to any of these things. Now, this isn't putting blame on the minor or saying that it's the minor's fault. It's still the doc's fault. But the fact that we could have 13-year-olds hopping on Twitter with zero recourse of how to deal with that, and they could just say their age, is insane. I believe the age is actually like 14, not 13, but the point is that it's very easy to get around lying about your age or get into places where you really shouldn't be as a minor. And you understand that as an adult, and you understand why that's an issue if you touch grass, right? Because you don't want to be putting kids in conversations that they shouldn't be having or that are inappropriate for them, right? On top of that, we also always have these phones in our pockets, and it's definitely not doing well for our mental health as a society. So it's probably better to start introducing ways that we can get kids offline and back to touching grass. I know it really sounds reductive to say that, but there's like a whole book about this that does it a lot better than me. It's called The Anxious Generation. I'd been reading it. I don't want to really parrot the guy's opinions word for word verbatim. I'll leave like a link to a podcast down below that really also talks about those same things. So yeah, there's that. That's my opinion on it. And I don't think it's a really hot take opinion. I really don't think it is. We live in a society. We can't just do mob justice or like do all these weird things. It's been really, really annoying to watch the Dr. Disrespect discourse get worse and worse with time because political grifters keep getting involved in it. Thing is that part of this is like a discussion of people not understanding. So assuming that these are adults in the chat, which I don't believe they are, but let's say that this account that's arguing right now is, right? And civil cases and arbitration in particular are not like, those are two different things. So arbitration is this. Arbitration is one party, in this case a company like Twitch, and Dr. Disrespect, the other party, walk into a room, right, with their lawyers. And there's a judge at the other end of the table, or like a retired judge, right, who arbitrates the arguments between both sides. And both sides sit on either side of the table, and they go back and forth about what their position is. Now, arbitration is decided by usually the party that has more like money, right? Because what happens is these retired judges, they get picked based on the people involved in the case, right? So obviously the company is going to want to put a guy in that room who's going to be beneficial to their causes, right? So in arbitration, the judge will be decided by the two parties, right? And generally, you know, those companies are going to be throwing some money at the arbitrator, the guy in charge of it, right? In the middle. And the arbitrator can get paid by those companies, which is why in arbitration, a lot of the time, companies win. Now, arbitration is a different legal procedure than a civil case. When you go to a civil case, it changes, right? So now you have a court, you have the defendant, and the other one that I'm drawing a blank on the name here, and I apologize, and somebody will tell me in a second. What, right? Now, in a civil case, of course, you're going to have a jury. Usually you have a jury. And the level changes a bit, right? It's like another level of seriousness. So now the amount of evidence you need changes. And that's where the concept and term preponderance of evidence comes from. You need to be more than likely, 50% or more likely, to be in the right, right? You need to be more likely to be correct. So what that means is that like 51% on your side means you win a civil case. Now that level of evidence is higher, but not the highest. The highest is a criminal case, right? And that standard goes from preponderance of evidence to beyond a reasonable doubt, 99%, right? So then when it's that way, then it is on the state, the prosecution, the state, the government, the like New York State or anything like that, right? Then it's on you to, as a state, to prove that this person committed the crime, right? And this level is so high on paper, so that way we don't wrongfully accuse and commit people to crimes that they did not commit. So those are the different levels of evidence, right? So people take any form of court action as 100% proof, but the public can't really make a distinction on it, especially for things like arbitration, because those records aren't public, right? So the problem with this Twitch Dr. Disrespect stuff is that it's private, because it's arbitration. So we don't get to know, right? So I understand that was a lot, but those are the different levels, right? And people often think of court as one infallible thing, but in reality, it changes on the level of action you're taking in a court, right? And the highest level of action is taken by the state. So there you go.